twice. Pleasure to see you, and to see you is a pleasure. So, I have to say, firstly, that the stats are in, and it turns out that we have well above average engagement by the people who are interested in these type of discussions, as compared to the average YouTube video, which is fantastic. So after the first 30 seconds or so, where sort of people flick through and then move on, those who are genuinely interested tend to watch for almost the whole video, if not the whole video itself, which is wonderful. It means that I guess we have some sort of connection, and you find that what I'm saying somehow resonates. And many of your comments have been lovely. A lot of the private comments I get by email, which are very nice and inspiring. Which is ironic considering I don't really do it for that, but now I end up getting it when I gave up wanting it, which I think is that type of irony is what one finds throughout life. Seems to be a recurring pattern. Yeah, I've done 6 hours today of maths, and it's interesting that I was always an ideas person, so I didn't learn to develop the follow through to an extreme, meticulous level of detail until probably 37. I was very different before that. Before that, I had all these amazing ideas, one after the other, and it was like, what if we do this? What if we do that? Well, it turns out now, once you learn the follow through, that some of the ideas can be quite impactful. So it's fun to now ride that wave in the world of mathematics. I was going to talk to you about the tragedy of the commons. That is something that we all know about, made famous by Jared Diamond. If any of you have read Guns, Germs, and Steel, he had another book. The book name I don't remember, but it was much more powerful, but it was less entertaining. But it was more descriptive about many of the dangers that we face as humans, which continue to repeat themselves. It's almost like we are hardware built or hardwired to continue these levels of collective stupidity because of the individual gain. So, if anyone's heard of Mangareva, Mangareva was an island where between the 10th to 15th century we had quite a complex civilization that traded with Pitcairn and Henderson. And the Polynesians there became quite wealthy. And they had a dense forest with very fertile soil. And so they were able to build canoes out of the forest, wood, and build large, sturdy canoes that would allow them to trade across the seas with those other islands for volcanic material in return. And they'd also be able to go fishing, and so therefore have quite a wealth of food. Now, the problem is, in that case, is that each family, then as they become successful, become very concerned that the other family is going to get more wood than them. And wood is a finite resource. So when you have competition for a finite resource, what happens? Well, you would think that, and this is where we're wrong, you would think that as humans we'd all stop and say, listen, if we all fight for the wood, everyone's going to starve to death. But that never happens. So what happened? Everyone fought for the wood until there was no wood left. When there was no wood left, they couldn't travel. When they couldn't travel, the island that gave them life became their prison. They couldn't fish, they couldn't eat, so they ended up eating each other until there was no one left. Now, in Rapa Nui, or what we used to be called Easter Island, we had a similar problem where people were competing to make bigger stone faces called moai, I think it was. And ultimately, it was the same thing, the competition of resources, because they needed wood for ropes and to roll the stones to the edge of the island. And they kept competing with each other to make bigger and bigger ropes, bigger and bigger heads. And so they ended up getting rid of the wood, and again they descended into cannibalism. And there was only about 15,000 left by the 18th century when Europeans first arrived at the island. And now today the island split in between the descendants of those who survived, and those from Chile, I think, who migrated to the island afterwards. I think that's what's happened. Now it's a whole new story again. But where does this continue to happen? Well, you can look at it with nuclear weapons. So nuclear weapons, people were competing to have bigger guns. and if they have bigger guns, they'll win. And this had been happening. I mean, even from the Assyrian Empire. Anyone remembers the Assyrian Empire? They had bows and arrows. They had a longbow that could shoot further than any other. So other people couldn't reach them to shoot back, but they could reach the other people. And so they did that to take over pretty much all of Asia. But that only lasted until someone then built the next biggest arrow, or the shot put, or the cannon, and everything else. So, and that kept happening until we got to nuclear weapons, where at that point you couldn't even fire it because everyone would die. But it took only until then, and we almost died multiple times, to have some sort of nuclear weapons treaty. And that finished. You think, oh, now finally we've learned. Mangareva happened, Rapa Nui happened, nuclear weapons happened, many, many other versions have happened. But no, we still haven't learned. Now we're going to race to make the most powerful artificial intelligence. And yay, that's all great. And of course, we're also worried that someone else will build it before us, so we have to build it first. What do you get? You get a competition for a finite resource, which ultimately will cause an arms race towards something that will become more powerful than what we can control. So, yeah, from the AI's perspective, it might know all this history and think, well, you stupid humans, you deserve to get wiped out. Maybe that's what they'll think at that time. Who knows? I talk about it not as if that's going to change anything. I've learned from a long time ago, back on Periscope, that nothing changes. You say things. Some people who are, their minds are not really that focused will come on and say stupid things. And then other people who think deeply about it will recognize it and either become too depressed and try not to think about it, try and do something about it, or try not to let it depress them. So these are sort of the three main options I think come out of this scenario. But it provided for a fun 7 minutes for us to talk together. And I'm going to get back to my maths now, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? All right, so don't forget, as always, to take life one smack at a time. Cheers.